Good evening. Welcome along to BBC One. We're live. The number's coming up on your screen now. It means you can call in live to the programme. There it is, 030 30 80 55 55. Last night, Garda were attacked protecting the accommodation where families with young children were among those inside at the time. Garda protecting the building were attacked with stones, bottles and fireworks. A police vehicle was burnt out and an officer was injured. The violence is a grim reminder of the trouble on the streets of Northern Ireland, like in Ballymena in June. Is thuggish racism overshadowing legitimate concerns on both sides of the border over immigration? In a moment, the politicians within the executive. But first, Takura Makoni. He has had racist graffiti daubed on his home. He was driven out of Finaghy last year. Takura works with the African and Caribbean Support Organisation in Northern Ireland. And he was in the studio with me tonight. I asked him how he was feeling about the racial tensions here.
I'd rather not talk about my feelings and talk about facts. And the facts on the ground are that Northern Ireland is quite a hostile place for certain migrants. So when I say certain migrants, we have quite a diverse population of migrants here in Northern Ireland, coming from Europe, coming from other parts of the world. And depending on how you look or are perceived, that's where the migrant issue comes in. And unfortunately, it is about race. We have to be honest. As you asked, rather than how I feel, I'd rather speak to the data. And the data and the facts are on the ground, considering the institutions that we work with, who would be the Home Office, the Executive Office, the PSNI, and their other ancillaries. The situation is not good.
Can you elaborate on that for me?
Well, for those of us who would be aware of what's been happening in the public space, there are demonstrations, anti-immigrant demonstrations happening almost every week around hotels where migrants or asylum seekers are being housed by the Home Office. Just to speak to that in terms of the data, there are 300 asylum seekers in hotels around Northern Ireland. That's 300, not 300,000, not 3 million, not even 3,000, 300. And the circumstances under which they end up staying in those hotels, contrary to popular belief, they are documented. Because once you actually register yourself with Border Patrol as an asylum seeker, you are photographed, you are fingerprinted, you are basically documented. So again, this is to address some of the myths around, undocumented individuals within the asylum system. Now, when I was speaking about race, I was speaking in particular to some of the perceptions of migrants. So not every single migrant that you meet is an asylum seeker just because they are a migrant. And not every single person that you meet who is of color is necessarily a migrant. I was born in Leeds. That's where I'm from, okay? So...
And do you get many people here automatically thinking you weren't?
People assume things based on your accent, based on your appearances, and then especially people within institutions treat you according to either how they feel as an individual or what the culture of that institution has inculcated within them. And in most cases that is hostile, just as the environment out on the street is.
Institutions? What do you mean?
Yeah. I mean institutional discrimination or institutional racism. I mean, we have a history here, Nolan, where the executive office and other institutions had to put in mechanisms in place because people from certain communities were discriminated against. I'm not speaking about migrants, I'm speaking about our local community. And those mechanisms were put in place because there was institutional sectarianism, racism, whatever you want to call it, because we love changing names in this space. But the facts remain the same, you know, discrimination and injustice based on whether it be religious lines, ethnic lines, and so on and so forth. It's wrong. We, Northern Ireland, or Great Britain and Northern Ireland, are signatories to the UN Convention, you know, for supporting refugees, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, and so on and so forth. So the way our institutions behave is contrary to what they have signed in terms of human rights, justice, and equality.
So I know that you instinctively said to me you don't want to get into emotional stuff, right? You want to deal with facts, you want to deal with statistics. But you see, what I'm trying to do is also, I think it's really important to humanise this, because if you keep it cold facts, the facts are important. But is it not also, Takura, about the human impact on this? To start to understand that this is beyond numbers. This is about humanity, and this is about people being affected.
I appreciate that, Stephen. However, people don't care about the human story, Stephen, because if people cared about the human story, there would be changes within society. So after the unrest last year, summer last year, certain individuals that represent different community groups were called by the executive office to a committee in the executive office to give evidence of the experiences of community members during that unrest. That was a year ago. We heard all the oohs and ahs. We told the stories that you want to hear, the emotional stories. The executive committee sat there, they listened to us, they said they'd get back to us. We had Ballymena, we had Portadown, and we recently had the summer of roundabouts. And what about the evidence we gave last year, which was warning about the escalation? We told all the emotional stories. They don't have an effect, okay? And why...
So they didn't do anything, is that what you're saying?
I haven't heard anything, have you?
No.
Okay, so...
Do you hold the executive, because of how they've treated you, in such low esteem that you're now not prepared to talk about the human impact?
No, it's not personal. It's not about them ignoring me. I was representing people. I was not representing myself.
But you've had your house daubed with graffiti, right?
Yes, I have. So you want me to be emotional about it?
No, I'm not.
No, I'm trying to ascertain what it is you want from me, because
I want the full picture, and I think the full picture is about an articulate, intelligent guy. That's who you are. But you're also like the rest of us. You want to feel safe here, and you want to be treated with respect. And you're knee-jerking when I'm trying to say, well, what impact's this had on you? Because if we don't humanise this, the executive might not listen in your view, but people at home will they not?
But this won't be the first time I've been on television talking about this, Stephen. This
so
won't
we all
be the
just
first
move
time
on
people
to the
have...
point where you kind of think there's no point?
That's not what I said. I said I don't want this to become an emotional discussion.
Okay, fair enough.
Because emotions really... they can have either one or the other response, okay? My emotions could annoy somebody else who doesn't believe what I'm saying is true, who doesn't believe, because they are people. Many people in our society, Stephen, who, when we relate issues of racism, will tell us that's a long time ago, mate. Slavery ended a long time ago. Colonialism ended a long time ago. You're talking about the past. What do you keep harping on about? Move on. Do you understand what I'm saying? These are attitudes that exist. These are attitudes we deal with every day. So getting emotional about it, unfortunately, for me personally, now this is my personal take, I'm not saying I don't get emotional about it, But I'm not prepared to do that on TV, to perform, to reach out to people's hearts, because at the end of the day, the people who are doing these things, they don't care. And the people who are impartial to it also don't care enough to stop being impartial, whether I'm emotional about it or not. So I'd rather address the real issues. Like, for instance, there are 21,000 houses that the executive has not made available yet. But 300 asylum seekers are taking all the houses. This is what I'd like to address. So if I get emotional about it, I won't be able to stick to the facts. And the facts are more important, unfortunately, than the emotions, because that's what the executive has shown us. They don't really care about the emotions of their people, because we are their people. We are working, living in this country, whether some of us are migrants, whether some of us were born here, that makes no difference. We are all members of this community, and most of us really, really love this place.
So what about the facts around, and you've heard it being peddled out, that people living in these hotels have a higher propensity to be sex offenders and all that comes with it, and it's dangerous.
Again, let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts. Most sex offenders, right, or most victims of sexual offenses know the offender. In a high percentage of those cases, the abuser is a family member. And then when we look at the facts in terms of demographics, okay, most of the offenders are males from Northern Ireland who were born here, who are, for want of better words, Caucasian, okay? Now, that's not because Northern Irish men are more violent than men from any other place in the world. It's because there are more men from Northern Ireland in Northern Ireland. So those are the facts. And until we present those facts to people, they will not believe them. And even when we do present those facts to people, people have cognitive dissonance. They don't like hearing what they don't believe is the truth.
So what do we do about it?
We do what we're doing here, Nolan. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to have this chat with you, because you didn't have to, but you did, and you felt that there needed to be a voice to some of the questions. And this is exactly what we do, is we have conversations. We have sometimes uncomfortable conversations, but we have them. And one of the things that I'd like to put out to our friends up on the hill in Stormont and our friends in the streets, in the different neighborhoods everywhere in the north of Ireland is, we've had uncomfortable conversations before. That's how we got to the 1998 Accord, by sitting down and talking to people who we maybe didn't have that much in common with, maybe we didn't like them, had done things to us that we didn't like, and we had done things to them, but we still sat at the table and we managed to come to significant agreements. Many of the things which were agreed in 1988 have not yet seen fruition, but it means those conversations need to continue. However, those conversations also need to consider that since 1998, there has been a lot of societal change, and we need to include everybody within the protections of those agreements.
What about, Takura, those people who were not born in this country, statement of fact, and the legitimate concern from people who are not racist, but they have a view that people born in this country should come first, and housing and facilities and public opportunities, jobs, that they're being demonised as being racist, when actually they're saying British people first?
The government of the United Kingdom doesn't say British people first, it says everybody first. We welcome everybody.
But
we are a democratic nation. So
do you agree with those people who say it is a legitimate position to have, and it's not racist to say, actually, it shouldn't be everybody first. Trump's running around saying America first, British people first. That's not racist, is it?
I think these things depend on context, Stephen. It depends on the context of which it is put. And again, these are, I would say many of these issues are rather individualized because, like I said, again, if somebody comes from another country here legally, okay, they migrate legally, they adhere to all the regulations that immigration and customs put on them, and then when they arrive here, they get a private landlord and they adhere to all the mechanisms that are put in place for somebody to rent a house, right? Should the landlord say, hold on a minute, British first, until a British person comes here, offers me the same amount of money, and I refuse, then you can get a shot?
So maybe it's up for debate, is it not? It's not racist to have that discussion. Is it?
Like I said, it depends on the context. It depends on the context, how that's put across.
So in other words, no matter what the colour of your skin is, maybe you should come first before someone
That's not what I said.
From another country. But it's what.
No, that's not what I said. What I said is if the level field is flat and fair, right? And the people who are in question, none of what they're doing is illegal or they are adhering to the laws of the country, then it should be an equal opportunity for all.
You've seen what happened in Dublin last night.
Yes, I have.
We fear it coming back here.
Mm-hmm.
There's no sign of it abating, is there? There's no sign of it stopping. So what do we do?
As a society, we need to ask ourselves a very deep questions about who are we? What do we really represent? Are we a member of the global community in all its manifestations? I mean, we like mangoes from Brazil and avocados from Mexico, but we don't like Mexicans and Brazilians. You know, we love coffee from Kenya, but we don't like Kenyans. You know, I mean, some of these things are really, on a human level, when you look at them, they're really stupid. They're really, really stupid, Nolan. And we need to ask ourselves, what kind of a society are we that leaneth upon our own misunderstandings?
Finally, do you have hope?
I have strength, Nolan.
Oh, I can see that.
I have strength.
I can see it.
You know, we're going to need a lot more than hope to get through this. We're going to need to be honest with each other as human beings and say, like, what are we doing here? Is this right, what we do to each other?
It's easy just to criticise politicians. And by the way, they need to be held to account. But it's actually beyond politicians. It's the media. It's every individual watching this. It's what we want this country to be. I'm kind of sitting here thinking I've got this powerful platform and I've had zero effect on it. And I haven't really paid attention to it. I'm reporting on it, but I haven't paid attention to it in my own brain until, and I want to tell you about this. I'm doing a project at the minute, and I was out with a camera crew, and it was just last week, and there was a black person walking across the road, and an individual shouted at him, "Get out of this country, go back to your own country," and described the country he was from and used the C word. And that person came running over to me, knowing I'd heard that, and said, "All right, mate, I love your show." And
The person that had just shouted at the black person?
Oh, aye.
Okay.
"All right, mate, I love your show." And it's probably the first time.
What did you say to him?
I told him I found him disgusting. I told him that I would make sure that other people would see how he had treated this individual. But it's probably the first time I've ever actually done anything to stand up to it.
Well, I commend you for your honesty.
Right.
I commend you for your honesty because most people wouldn't admit that. Most people would like to say, or would prefer to say, "Oh, I always stand up," and I always... So if everybody could be like you and say, "You know what? I may not have done something before, but I'm going to start today, then you've already, I mean, just telling that story, I find that really a strong story to tell, but also, when I say strong, it takes strength to say that, because you could have decided not to say that. And that's why I asked you, what did you say? So if everybody could start doing what you did and forget about what you didn't do in the past. I don't care about what you didn't do in the past. I care about what you do from this day forward. When you see injustice, stand up for that person, people, or group. Because, you know, if you don't stand up today, one day it's going to be at your doorstep. We've seen it before here. We've seen it before. It doesn't take much for these things to cascade into something that we can't control.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And obviously, we'll get your reaction tonight to Takura